That's a good idea.
Hello, everyone. Greetings. My name is Kavita, and I am the president of the California Association of the Deaf. And I am thrilled this evening to introduce these two lovely presenters to you tonight. And our topic for the evening is political activism. Learn how to campaign for positive change, run for office, and more. And our presenters that you see here, we have Rob Dooling, and we have Rico, and we have Rico Dancy. We also have two interpreters here working with us this evening. I'd like to tell you a bit about what to expect for the evening. We'll have the presenters share their information. We will have a short discussion about our upcoming events for CAD, and then we will have an opportunity for a little bit of a Q&A. With the Q&A, you have the option to either use ASL to ask your question, keeping in mind that if you want to sign on your own, that's fine, but you will need permission to come into our Zoom platform so that we can have your video shared on both YouTube and Facebook. If you do not want to be broadcast onto other platforms, then you can feel free to either voice or type your message into the chat. And then that will be the end of our evening. Thank you very much for joining us, and enjoy the presentation. Hello, everyone. Good evening to the California Association of the Deaf. Thank you so much for having me and for having us. And thank you to the interpreters as well for working this evening. And thank you for all of you for your interest in politics and political activism. As was mentioned, my name is Rob Dooling, and this is my sign name here. And I am a resident of Washington, D.C., where I've been for the past 6 years. I grew up in Nebraska, and I attended RIT, and then came to DC, where I became involved in political activism. Rico, would you like to go ahead and introduce yourself? Wow. Thank you for that. Now let's move on to our introduction. We want to tell you a little bit about how we became involved in politics. We're here in Washington, D.C. We have the National Association of the Deaf, much as California Association of the Deaf is the statewide organization. We have the national organization here that works to make politics more accessible in terms of interpreting, captioning, etc., for governmental meetings and so forth. The two of us both live on the eastern part of H Street, the H Street corridor, which is a neighborhood that has a number of bars, restaurants, etc., close to Gallaudet University. So if you've been there, you probably know the H Street corridor. And we attend meetings for our neighborhood commission there. And we discuss issues such as politics, liquor licenses, all sorts of regional political discussions. And in these meetings, we need to make sure that we have funding for interpreters so that deaf people have full access to the conversation. The two of us decided that we wanted to run as part of that ANC, which is the advisory, or as rather, the ANC, the Advisory Neighborhood Commissioners. You see here in this photo, myself and Rico on H Street. Rico, do you maybe want to talk a little bit about what led you to run? Thank you for sharing that, Rico. And our next slide. There are a number of ways to be involved, and it's not just in DC, it's in California as well. Essentially, anything you're interested in, there's an opportunity in politics. If you're interested in LGBT events, if you'd like to host a Pride event in San Diego or any city that you might be interested in being part of that, that's an opportunity. You have opportunities as well to make interpreters more accessible. Working with, you also have opportunities to work with senior citizen, LGBT individuals, and that's anywhere in California. You already have sort of political organizations in Los Angeles, San Francisco, San Diego. You just have to find what it is that you're most interested in and use that as your avenue to start your involvement in politics. Now, of course, right now with the situation we're in with COVID-19, it's become a little bit more difficult to make things happen, but because everything is virtual, you can still attend meetings and you can use interpreters. You can call through VRS. It depends on what your local organizations are doing. Half of my screen right now looks like a Zoom screen. The other half of the screen that you're seeing here looks like the VRS interpreter. So there are a number of options for how you can still stay engaged, even in this virtual environment. And Rico, I'm curious about you, if you're involved with any organizations aside from the ANC. Great, thank you. I'm also involved with the DC Association of the Deaf. I'm involved with the DC Disability Advisory Organization, the Washington, DC Bike Association, because we have a lot of people who are working to make the city safer for cyclists as well. Now, we're really working towards making a positive change within the ANC, within our committee. We want people to be able to make decisions about their own neighborhoods and also be representatives for the deaf community. This past summer in July, when the two of us decided to run, and I want to impress upon you, anyone can do that. It's not only those who have been in the spotlight. There are a number of positions for which you can run. You could run for a school board, where you would be meeting with parents and school members, maybe once a month, depending on where you are. The neighborhood commission is just what the two of us happen to be part of. And it's a part-time organization. It's not full-time work necessarily. It's just, a once a month gathering where we vote on Again, liquor licenses, transportation, providing affordable housing in the H Street corridor, which is important, particularly in the DC area. Now, if you are interested in running for something, first you have to make sure you get your name on the ballot. So just as we saw in the election in November, you got to have your name on the ballot in order for anyone to be able to vote for you. Now, in July, you see here Rico's name. Rico and myself both were on the ballot in July locally because we wanted to run for the ANC. And so they gave us paperwork. And with that paperwork, we had to go out and collect signatures from folks who were already registered voters. Rico, do you maybe want to share a little bit about what that process of collecting signatures was like for you?
Would you say that again, please?
Sure. Could you just tell us a little bit about what the process was like for you to get your name on the ballot, to collect the signatures and so forth?
Well, to vote, I needed to talk about what my subject was going to be and how voting for me was going to cause changes and what I was going to do. That I needed to hear people and their positions as to what they wanted to vote on.
Did you face any barriers when you were trying to engage with these people, being a deaf individual?
Well, as a deaf person, right, it's being able to communicate and being able to have access, equal access. To have better communication for a deaf person. I also had volunteers helping me communicate.
So Rico and I both had to do this in July to get our names on the ballot. We had to, again, reach out to registered voters. The local government will ask you when you're running to show that you have at least some amount of support before your name is officially on the ballot. Our district is very small. We were only required to collect 10 signatures, which meant I could essentially ask a few of my deaf neighbors who were registered in DC if they would be happy to sign my signature, if they would be willing to give me their signatures so that I could then submit this. It was an additional challenge because generally you would just want to engage with anyone on the street as they're out for a walk or walking their dog or with their children or whatnot. But because of COVID, it was a little bit more difficult, but I did my best. I engaged with people and I said, hello, my name is Rob. I would love to be your commissioner. I introduced myself to them and told them a little bit about myself, and I got the signatures I needed so that in August I could submit that to them, and I could officially have my name on the ballot to run for the position. It was free. I didn't have to pay for anything. I just had to ask some people for their signatures.
What's important is having registered voters. They must be registered in DC. And if they move, they must be registered to vote in DC. If the signature is not a valid one, then it doesn't count.
Thank you for mentioning that last point. That's important. They need to be registered in the district that you're running in. So for example, I need to make sure that the people that I met out on the street actually lived in my district. So here you see a ballot with my name on it. This is what it actually looks like. This is something that you would get in the mail. I received one. I was able to vote for myself and then send it back in. So I knew I had at least one vote for myself, if nothing else. the next step, of course, is to convince other people to vote for me as well. Rico, what did you do to convince other people to vote for you?
What was that?
I was just asking, how did you convince people to vote for you?
Well, he's typing it on the chat. Well, of course, when I was running for the campaign, I talked with voters about how they were doing on a regular basis. I essentially just talked to voters.
Did any voters share any of their top concerns or issues with you, perhaps?
Police training, I see that. Police training is something they would talk to me about. A lot of people wanted to focus on police training. Working with DC as well. Affordable housing. Just a lot of issues living in DC. There were a lot of hot issues. Affordable housing, like I mentioned, transportation. A lot of voters talked about that. So a woman once said that they could not afford rent, that DC was too expensive. And yes, I know that.
Thank you for that. A lot of folks in my area talked about the same sorts of things. A lot of them were also concerned about education, about equity in our educational system in DC, which we really need to see more. We need to see more work being done on that.
Rob is actually typing everything for me, so thank you.
Now, meeting the voters. Again, with this being a COVID era, we had to get quite creative with this, especially for the two of us running as as deaf candidates. We had to find interpreters who could work with us in the DC area. And there was a Facebook group that we used that's called Pro Bono Interpreters DC. And we posted in that essentially just saying, hi, my name is Rob, or hi, my name is Rico, and I'm deaf, and I'm running for the ANC. Are you willing to walk around the neighborhood and interpret for me when I engage with people? And a lot of interpreters were willing to do that because it's fun, it's interesting. So with COVID, we had to get a little bit creative. We had to go out into the neighborhoods and walk around, but safety was the most important thing there. Rico, how did you feel working with interpreters?
It was good. It allowed me to communicate better. Yes, yes. It was the best communication that I could have, and I needed it.
Right. Thank you. All right. Number 3, campaigning is making door hangings, making signs, those tags that you can put on someone's doorknob that you often see around election time. Sometimes you see even a card of some sort coming with your food order that comes in or that's delivered. If we continue, I can show you an example of how we ask for donations. Many candidates use this website that you see here, which is called Act Blue. Once your name is on the ballot, then it's pretty easy to sign up with this website. You just go in as the candidate, you fill out all your information, and then it all goes up into the system and you're able to share this information on Facebook, on Instagram, anywhere on social media. You can share it with friends, family, and it'll show what issues you're concerned about, whether it's police reform, affordable housing, defunding the police, whatever it is that you believe in, you can see all the issues laid out on this website. There are a number of issues that people are concerned about, of course, right? So Act Blue is a really easy way to register and share your information on social media with friends and family, and especially those who don't live nearby, but who still want to keep up with what you're doing.
Right. Amen.
Now here's an example of what an ActBlue donation page looks like. You can add as much information as you want. You can add a photo about yourself. It's basically an opportunity for people to get to know who you are and why you're running. Another way to get donations is to tell people about your history, to tell them about your background and why they should vote for you. So, for example, I posted on Instagram and I just explained a little bit about myself, and that I wanted to initially got involved because I wanted to push for more parks in my neighborhood. And this here, you see actually there's some ASL art here in the park that I helped push for. That's in Northeast DC. And I wanted to do that. And I wanted to continue that work as well once that first one was done. And so I could then say to other people, here's something I wanted. I accomplished it. If you want to see more of this, vote for me. And there are a number of ways that you can show people that you're qualified based on your past experience, your employment opportunities, or your employment experience rather. It's all about selling yourself. And it can be harder if you're a person who's a little bit shy, you aren't great at talking to strangers. It can be a challenge, but you just have to get out there and do it. Now, so you submit your signatures in August, and then September and October are all about campaigning. And you need to get creative with how you campaign. A number of folks in my area who were supporting my campaign decided to use chalk to write on the sidewalk or write on the street. That's just messages in support and in promotion of my campaign and the platform I was running on. Rico, what did you do for campaigning?
Oh, I did a lot of the same things. You know, I put my name out there, how I ran for the ANC, and I was being creative, yeah.
Right, and I think the way you campaigned was actually a really good way also. And we'll show you what that looked like coming up soon. The other person you see here in the top left is Matthew Sampson, who's actually another deaf person who ran for the ANC in DC this year. The three of us got involved, or got in contact rather, with the DC Association of the Deaf, the National Association of the Deaf, to let them know that the three of us were running and to help increase awareness in the community and spread the word as far as possible. So whether you're running for office because in DC or in Los Angeles, there's always an opportunity for partnership with local organizations, even local newspapers, any opportunity you have to share your message. Now this here, what you're seeing is a great example of what Rico did. Rico reached out to a local newspaper in DC and just shared a bit about his mission statement. Rico, do you want to say anything more about this?
So many groups would contact me wanting to know about the changes that I wanted to make and why I was running. So I had to explain to them, and there were a lot of emails that went back and forth and talked about all of the things that made me want to run and why I decided that it was important for me to run.
Thank you. And what was your response to them when they asked why you decided to run in the first place?
That I wanted to see change. You know, I wanted things to be different. That's why I wanted to have a positive change. You know, that I cared about people. That's why I wanted to run for office. Because I really do want to get elected to represent deaf people so that they can vote for us, so that they truly value us.
And do you have any advice for deaf candidates in the future? How to run, how to get themselves out there?
Yes, you can go to town hall meetings, get involved. You can participate in politics. You can join meetings, as I said. You can actively be part of politics to be able to see the changes you want to see. I want to see every deaf person involved in politics. I want to see every deaf person run for office to see the change in your community, in your state, to make a difference.
Exactly. I want to see that change as well. Thank you. Let's go to the next slide. Now you've heard a bit about our experiences. What else would you like to know? Do you have any questions?
No. Am I muted? Nope. Except for they could. Vaccine. Right.
All right. Hello, everyone. Hello again. Thank you so much. That was so inspiring to hear more about your political involvement, your activism, and your commitment to create change. I know I feel inspired from your presentation and more motivated now to get involved, maybe on a state level.
That's
I don't know.
Great.
Maybe
yes,
Maybe I'll even bring myself out to DC.
Yes.
We do have some audience questions ready for you. The first one is, what initially inspired you to get involved in politics?
Do you want me to take them?
Rico, do you want to start?
First? Okay, so at first, I started when I was 13 years old, and I'd been involved in politics ever since, meeting a lot of different people. My grandmother was actually involved. She was the first Black woman, deaf Black woman, to run for office. She wanted to help people. Participating in politics for now 33 years, and that's me. He's actually, Rob is actually typing everything out for me. There are different things, and the adventure of meeting a lot of people really can change the world just by running for office. Just having that can-do attitude of being able to change things. Many people who are deaf think that they can't, but we have to emphasize that yes, you can. Deaf can do this. You have to remember, we all can do this. Deaf people can run for office. This is our future, and we need to be able to make the changes in our community together. If you want to see change of your community, we have to be able to run for office. Thank you.
Thank you
God
so much.
Bless.
And Rob, would you like to add? There are a number of issues that inspired me, things that I really care about. As I said, I live in DC now, but I grew up in Nebraska, which I wouldn't say is a particularly deaf-friendly or LGBT-friendly environment, versus DC, where people are a lot more open-minded. And I fell in love with DC. But I want everyone to have that opportunity to live in a place like that, whether it's DC or Los Angeles or anywhere in between. And for me, I believe that housing is a human right. You should be able to live anywhere that you want, because there should be housing available and affordable. But many people don't look into local politics. They don't look into their school board or what their city hall or what the folks at city hall are doing. Most people don't go to their local political meetings in their local community, and those who do go are older and wealthier, typically white. They're the people who have more time and who have more to lose potentially, or think they have more to lose. And so they're concerned about it, and that's why they go to the meetings. If we look at San Francisco, for example, there are buildings everywhere, but many people can't afford them. So I guess my point is, housing is the initial reason that I ran and wanted to be involved in politics. You never know, you might even get a vote from me. Again, if I move to DC, you two for sure will be getting my vote.
I think that we might actually, I don't know, run for Senate. I definitely would. U.S. Senate. I think that I could run for that.
Oh, U.S. Senator?
Yes.
You know what? Why not? Go for it. Go for it. Okay, we have another question here. What's been the most challenging aspect of making positive change? Rico?
Okay. Could you say that again, please?
Sure. What has been the most challenging part of making positive change? What's been the biggest challenge for you?
Well, I think number one would be the police department and having hard of hearing people in units, in police units. For every police department, they should have that. And I believe that every police department should have sign language training, having deaf people and hard of hearing people. Every department in the US should have that. That's the kind of change I want to see. And that needs to be repeated. That has to be shown everywhere. Because there are a lot of people who don't have jobs, a large percentage of people who are jobless. It's about 60%. So we need to see that number change. We need to help deaf people. We need to have new jobs. I want to see that change.
That's all true. And Rob, you'd like to add? A lot of people don't want to get involved in politics because they feel that they can't change or there's nothing in it for them. And I understand a lot of the meetings are long. They can sometimes be a little bit dry. I had that experience as well, but that's also part of what led me to want to be part of the ANC, because I do know the importance of change, but I also know that it's gradual. There are some issues, but also there are a lot of positive aspects, of course. You just have to keep yourself motivated towards achieving everything that you want to. Right, and increasing that momentum for creating positive change, for incentivizing people, making them engaged and excited about change.
I agree. Amen.
Question 3.
And also, I'm tired of people thinking that politics is just the same all around. And it's not. It's not the same all around. People are different. And so if you want to run for office, we're going to have a lot of issues that we need to talk about.
Mm-hmm. That's true. Question number 3. During the Black Lives Matter movement, or how has the Black Lives Matter movement impacted your involvement in political activism?
For me, so it hurt me really badly. It really did to see all these people really getting hurt, like George Floyd. All of that happening, and to see it happen. 400 years of institutional racism is what was going on. This has been going on for generations now. And it's still happening in this country. So what I see is people killing people. In our own homes. And that, for me, why are we doing this? We need to have this change. Why is this happening? And so running for office is what's going to help change these policies. That's why I decided to run, because we have to accept the responsibilities and we have to change those offices. We have to change what's on paper. Right?
Right. There was a lot that took place over the summer, and the DC Association of the Deaf really wanted to be part of that. And they wanted as well. They also wanted Black Disabled Lives Matter to be part of that and to march with them. And part of that has to do with reducing the funding for the DC Police Department. DC has the highest number of police officers per capita. Just simply put, there are too many officers in Washington, DC. And the mayor there is concerned about the old way of public safety. But they aren't thinking about other things like mental health services, which we don't have enough of. They're not thinking about violence more broadly speaking, or innovative approaches to addressing crime. And so many people started to push for a reduction in the police budget, not fully defunding, but reducing the budget. And so we've been working with people to try to convince people as much as possible to maybe reallocate the funding to things like mental health services or violence prevention, various social services. Right? That funding could definitely be reallocated and perhaps given to, like you said, other important causes such as mental health, which definitely needs more funding. I agree with you. Now, I think many people overlook deaf people when it comes to mental health, or deaf people with mental health challenges, or deaf disabled folks. And I think it's time for us to really step up, for us to really get involved in the ways that you were sort of talking about just now, Rob. Let's move on to question number 4.
But you okay? You've been doing this. You've been doing a lot of work.
Sorry about that. We seem to have some technical difficulties for a moment there.
Oh, no, you're fine.
Back to question number 4. Question 4 asks if there are deaf people in other states who are involved in politics, and if so, has that inspired you in any ways? This is Rob saying, yes, there are a number. There's Philip Wolf, who ran for city council in Portland, Oregon.
No,
Yep, out in
wow.
Oregon. There's Steve Lovey, who ran for the Democratic Council in New York City.
Wow, New York.
And this year, C.J. Peterson ran for the Iowa State Senate.
Wow.
And then, as we mentioned, of course, there are 3 deaf folks in DC, the 2 of us plus 1 other. And so we're figuring it out. We're looking to those who have already run races, and we're getting advice from them. We're working with them to get ideas and figure out how to get support, figuring out how to get funding using websites like ActBlue, getting creative with our fundraising in general, figuring out how to coordinate interpreters. But yeah, it definitely inspires me to see other deaf people involved in politics and in our movement.
We do need a lot more of that. Yes, we do need a lot more of that. Absolutely. And who knows, maybe we can have a run for the presidency, yeah? Just move your way up the political ladder and just be a shaker and mover.
Yes, please. I would love that.
Okay, next question. Question number 5. Before getting involved in politics, is it really necessary to have knowledge about politics and to understand politics to get involved in it?
No.
What do you say?
Well, Rico, you wanna take it?
Can you say that again, please? Is it necessary to understand politics and the political system and all of that before you get into politics? No. So how did you get involved into politics? How can a person do so? Well, you don't have to have a degree or anything. You don't have to have a law degree. There isn't anything. You just need to be able to vote. That's it. You don't have to have any experience in running for office. You don't need to have any high degrees at all. Same here. Rob, do you want to add anything else?
In our November.
Oh, I know this.
In November, the opponent had tons of experience, extensive experience in the law, and I still won. So I think to Rico's point, you don't need to be a lawyer. You don't need to have X number of years of experience. You just need to know what you're getting involved in. Maybe get your feet wet by joining a local board, like a school board. That's volunteer. You're not getting paid, but they need people who want to create change in the system and to break the system because it's not working the way it is. So let's make positive change.
Yes, that is positive change.
We want to make sure that the system is accessible for everyone, because the system needs to serve the common people.
Yes, that is so true. Power to the people. That's what's going to make the change. Yes, and I agree with you 100%. So hopefully people who are watching us, please think about these things. It's time for us to think about it, because in the next 4 years, we're going to have to make these decisions.
Or 2 years, possibly.
Right. Okay, question number 6. Is it important for your neighborhood areas to know who the candidates are who are running for office and to get to know you? Is that important for them? To know who you are and why you're running for office and who you are as a candidate? Rico? Or Rob? Oh, I'll let Rob answer.
Okay, sure. Name recognition is the most important part of this process. Many people go into the election, they look at the ballot, and they only plan on voting for who's running for president. Maybe they've done a little bit of research on some of the other candidates, which is why you need to put your name out there so that when they do that research, they'll see you. They'll see yard signs with your name. They'll see your name in the newspaper and on social media. And as I mentioned, you also need to get out there and meet people face to face, whether they're deaf, hearing, doesn't matter. You have to plant that idea in their head, plant your name in their head so that they know. Because we don't only run to win, we run to share our ideas, to make the world a better place, and to also inspire people and motivate them from the message that you're sharing.
That's a good step to be able to get to where we need to get into for politics, right? Rico's asking, yes. To be able to know how to run, and also to know who the person is, to know how long they've lived in the area and how well they know the area. So yes, their residency in the area, their knowledge about their area is also very important.
Networking. A lot of it comes down to networking.
Networking is very important. You're right. Those are the people who are going to be out there spreading your message. So you're right about that. It is important to have that networking.
Exactly.
Okay, and now comes our last and final question. Question number 7. What were or was your highlighted experiences? Something that you reflect on that was a great experience, or something you can look back on that was a highlighted experience for you. Either one of you can answer. Rico, Rob?
Rico, do you want to start?
Yeah, something you look back on and something that you remember. No, go ahead, Rob. Go ahead.
Well, one of the best memories I have is that I wanted to make sure that I was friends with my opponents. I wanted to make sure that I was able to speak with them, to figure out how we could work together, regardless of who won, that we could work together to make change, to make positive change. There's a deaf-owned restaurant in the DC area called Mazzeria.
Yeah, yes, I know it.
And Mazzeria is in my district where I was running. So my opponent and I, we texted each other during the campaign, and afterwards I got a congratulatory message, and we said, why don't we meet at Mazzeria? We sat outside. We were safely distanced. We wore masks when we weren't eating. But after the election, we were still in touch. We were still friends. We were able to sit down for a meal together. That was definitely a highlight for me.
That's wonderful. What about you, Rico? Is there any particular experience that you have as a political activist? Some very good memory that you might have? Some highlighted experience? So that's a good question. So, well, when I got started in activism with politics, it was just about taking action. And it could start with small action, getting to people to know who you are, getting involved in your community, meeting the people in your community to be able to make a difference. Yes, that's very true. And also to just think about trainings, to have that thought of how people think about politics and what it is and what it's not. So there are a lot of different ideas that, yes, are reasons to get involved with politics. You're right. So I hope that all of you who are watching us, we would love to see all of you more involved. It sounds like There isn't anything you have to pay. There isn't anything you have to do. It's simply about just getting to know your neighbors, to be able to run for office, to volunteer to do these things. It's just a simple thing that anyone can do. And there's been these fights that we've had for many years about all these issues. So yes, get involved in politics. Do it. Do it.
Yes, of course,
Definitely
Deaf
do it.
Power, we can do it.
Yes, yes, we can do this.
Yes.
Oh, that's great to hear. So I want to thank, yes, Deaf Power. Yes, yes. So I want to thank both of you. And I also want to thank both of our interpreters who are working behind the scene with us and have you both here tonight, who also, those who have been able to help us with the questions, um, our CAD, California Association of the Deaf, uh, regional manager, Saren Grosfer. And lastly, but not least, the person who is making all this technology work is Jermaine Cornish. He is our CAD vice president, and he handles everything that you see happening behind the scenes. We also have our interpreters, Andrew Leva and Jenny Coyne. I think the last name C.O. Coin. It starts with the C, right? But they're interpreting for us tonight. Now, before we go on and close the session tonight, we want to let you know that in 2 weeks, we're going to have on December 3rd another CAD platform. We're going to have a wonderful family and talk about their experiences with their journey as a transgendered individual. So it would be interesting to see this continuing. So please consider giving a donation. We have a website where you can just click to donate so that we can keep this going on. Important for CAD to be able to provide this. And again, thank you for watching us. We wish you all a good night, and please stay safe and stay healthy. Thank you all, and happy Thanksgiving to everyone. Please have a safe celebration. Happy
Thank you so much,
Thanksgiving,
everyone.
everyone.
Happy
Happy
Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving.
Thank
Bye
you.
bye. And that is it.